we fined David 15 grand for missing the first day of mandatory minicamp. So
is that what it is? 15 grand in your room? Well, you guys are tough. It's only. With the strength and conditioning staff, I mean, it's really the 5-week period for each individual to get themselves ready. I mean, it's the conditioning component to me is always the biggest challenge in training camp. Especially of late, because you have different restrictions and it's a bigger time away from your team than than years ago. So, but yeah, no, I wouldn't say just totally get away from it. I mean, a lot of our players will be here, and they'll be working together. I know Dak will continue the throw with the perimeter group and so forth. So, I mean, they go more into the their personal workouts, but there's a lot of work that'll be going on between tomorrow's the ending of the camp tomorrow for the veterans and when we get back.
You said something yesterday about a virtual component that made it sound like it was after the mini camp is over. Is there still a part of that kind of thing going on for them to have as a resource between mini camp and training camp?
Well, I mean, it's like anything that we do. We're always going to be in touch with our players. There's things I'll be doing with the staff over the break. I mean, it is vacation. I think in normal years, my experience is like a coaching staff, you're able to totally get away. I mean, that's not the case right now. I just think of the climate that we're in. Going through the spring, just with a lot of decisions. From scheduling and administration were not completed till late, especially with us still being relatively new as a staff, finding out that we're going to Oxnard as late as we did. So, I mean, I'm not 100% where I normally am at this time of year. So I just think, it's just like anything. There's a job to do. We got to get the job done. So I know it may say vacation on the calendar, but we all have things we need to get done before we get back here on the 19th.
I know in the past, a few weeks ago, you said something about giving the veterans a final day off. Is that not the case?
What do you mean? I'm not sure what you're. Yeah, we conclude the minicamp tomorrow.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah, minicamp concludes tomorrow.
Your rookies will have something next week. Right.
Yes, we'll have. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off here, Todd. But yes, we'll have rookie school next week. That'll go Monday through Friday next week.
Mike, when you're considering how to use a versatile player like Tony Pollard, how do you balance what his skill set is versus where you have more and less depth on the roster?
Well, I think there's a really two different outlooks on any player because I think like anything, you're always trying to create versatility for the offensive unit, defensive unit, and we really want to make opportunities available for playmakers, especially on special teams. I mean, it's when you have someone like Tony's ability and talent. I mean, you find different ways of trying to get him the football. But whether he lines up and plays receiver positions, because I think the reason why you're asking is because we're short receivers, due to injuries. Yes, I mean that's a nice, that's a nice balance to have between the running back and receiver. But frankly, that was really the outlook for the spring, was to get him in more locations, move him around, and try to create more opportunities. Because not only is he an exceptional inline player, but I mean he's definitely a threat and a matchup issue in space. So that was really part of the planning. We're just seeing more of it because of the injuries to the receivers.
Mike, how does the 17-game schedule 17-game schedule affect your training camp schedule and your in-season schedule? You got to go through it and revamp that at all with one more week?
Well, I'll be honest with you. I just think the nature of how training camp is presented here, helps in the climate that we're in. I don't recall a training camp schedule that I've ever put together where you don't just have a clean 7-day week between a game. I've always looked for when, because you're able to control certain days that a preseason game's played on. I've always liked to have at least 2 7-day stretches so you can, get your team in a regularity, get them into a 7-day workflow is what they're accustomed to in season. And we don't have one this year. We play Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Those are our 4 opportunities. But with that, I guess I say that tongue in cheek. I'll never say thank you, but I guess I appreciate it because I don't think we get into a 7-game flow in the regular season until like week 6. So, it is definitely, preparing us for the up and down and that you sometimes go through, with these scheduling challenges. But that's all part of being, a team that has great national and worldly interests, and we love that. It's part of the challenge. But I mean, those are the little things that I look forward in getting to your answer. Now stretch it over a 17-game season. Absolutely. I mean, so you watch because stress is additive, physical, emotional, mental stress. And I've always viewed it's additive. So that's where the regeneration day is very important, and that's a component that I've just learned over the years. You got to pay close attention to, because I know in my earlier years in training camp, I've run a team. I want to say my second year or my first or second year in Green Bay. I over practiced the team, and it really showed up in the 3rd preseason game. And I can remember it clearly. It was in Cincinnati, and we were dead, And so too much is definitely something you got to be conscientious of, especially with this 17-game schedule.
We're about 6 weeks away from when your team is scheduled to report to training camp. Do you know yet where that will be, and how soon, if not, do you need to know, given what it entails to hold a training camp?
Well, I'm planning for Oxnard. That's what the plan is. Everything looks to that. So I mean, we've been meeting with the city officials, and so everything is lined up. So I don't have the official stamp to put on it, but I went through this last year, just with the unknown of A, if there was going to be a training camp, and B, where would it be. So I have a lot of practice at training. I got a bunch of training camp schedules if anybody needs an extra one. So I'm ready to go wherever camp is this year, but we're definitely planning to go to California.
We've been seeing Don Wilson the last couple of accesses that we've had. What's he been dealing with, and how's he doing health-wise?
I'm sorry, Todd, the beginning of your question cut out. I didn't hear it.
Don Wilson.
Okay.
We've seen him during the time we've been out here the last couple of times. I'm just wondering what he's been dealing with.
Yeah, he's doing well. He had a slight injury. We're just being smart with him, but he looks great. Just obviously, I see him being an impact player for us on defense. But he's just one of the guys, as we referred to yesterday, just medically being smart. Nothing serious.
What impressed you with Brent Urban this offseason, and what does his flexibility add to the defensive front?
Brent's doing well. He's, I love his personality. He's almost, the big brother in the room. I think him, the veteran group in there, the new veteran group has been, a definite, a change in the mix of the young guys. So I mean, it's obviously the room probably has gone through the most change, but very professional. Love the way he works. Is the same guy every single day, and he's just a great fit. I was, before I came in here, I was watching the individual drills, defensive individual drills with Will McClay, and we were just commenting on just what a great signing, he was for us. Just a great fit for us. So I love what he's given us so far.
When you're looking at a guy like Urban to bring in, knowing that you're losing a guy like Tyrone Crawford, was that part of the factor?
Oh, definitely. I mean, I opened up with it earlier this spring. I mean, we lost a lot of experience from our locker room. 55 years. if I recall, is the statistic. But and definitely Tyrone was a big piece of that. So I think when we went into free agency, that you're obviously looking for measurables and the physical component of it, but how they fit in each room was something we probably spent more time on talking through. And Brent is, like I said, he's an excellent fit for us.
Micah Parsons talked yesterday about watching pass rush film with DeMarcus Lawrence and DeMarcus giving him some tips with plans to work more together. How key are connections like that to building your team? And have you seen any other examples that stand out with vets mentoring rookies in recent weeks?
Oh, definitely. I don't think you can have enough of it. I mean, if a big part of my job is just in the realm that I'm in right now is trying to get as many meetings as you can and different things. We're trying different drills in practice, and my meter is what does it look like? Trying to make sure everything looks a certain way. And something that's stressed over and over again is the veteran participation with the young players. It's our team's only that's a key characteristic I felt is because you're always trying to bring the young group and the older group together. And being the head coach of a young team annually, those young players play in the biggest games of the year, and that's what we're preparing for. We're preparing for these young players to be playing in those big games in November, December. That's been my personal experience, and it's a big part of my thought process when I'm trying to design, classroom environment, culture. When you're speaking on those things and you're promoting those things, and I think our veteran group does an excellent job of it. But that, to me, that's part of our teaching curriculum is what's it look like, and because at the end of the day we're trying to develop a 90-man roster, because by taking that approach, it obviously gives us the best 68-man roster when we go into it, the 53 plus the practice squad. So but I think when I hear that, it's refreshing. I love it that when young players are talking openly about it, because that's what you're looking for. And it's a lot like raising your kids. I could tell my daughters over and over again what to do, and then as soon as someone else tells them it's the greatest idea ever. So I think that's a little bit in coaching too. So I think it's great when the veteran players are definitely helping the younger players. It only makes us better.
Along that same line, I'm sure, I guess it goes without saying, but how much of a difference can you tell this year as opposed to last, not just with your players, but your coaching staff, just being around each other and having a chance to kind of, build that type of camaraderie that I assume you didn't have as much last year?
I mean, really, we're not even in the same space, comparing last year to this year. We took accountability for not hitting the target virtually last year as a coaching staff. Shake it any way you want. We were too up and down as far as the understanding, the expectations, and so forth. So I thought our coaches knocked it out of the park virtually this year, and you could see it in the understanding when we're on the field. But I spend most of my time comparing this year's off-season program to prior off-season programs when you have a full slate. And we're doing a much better job. It's just different. I think every coach that's been in this league recognizes that. So you got to, I love it. It continues to challenge yourself to be creative. But at the end of the day, we're testing our players a lot more. There's a lot more, daily feedback, weekly feedback to make sure we know where we are. I mean, cross the hall type methods are, we're doing more and more, within the offense and defensive units. We haven't had the time. We'll get to that training camp to go across the hall with the offense and the defense and the coaches and so forth. But our learning environment is clearly, it had to be. I mean, there's no choice better than it was this time last year. And I think it's clearly reflected on what we're getting done on the field.
A lot of our focus in the offseason has been questions about the changes on defense, but offensively, how do you feel about where you are, and do you feel that you've been able to dig in a lot deeper because of the continuity on that side of the ball, and just your overall thought offensively of where this team stands and if everyone's on the same page?
I mean, clearly the biggest change offensively is really the health of our players. I think if you looked at what we tried to accomplished last year, a lot of the concepts, a lot of the things that we set out to do in the installation phase, we really never got to because of injury. So there's a part of it was a reboot, and then part of it was the trends and the concepts that fit the things that we did do last year. We want to always stay true to that so we can build off of past success. I'm a huge believer this league is just a big cycle of common trends and successes, and you have to stay on the front of that, both offensively and defensively. So I thought Kellen and the staff did a great job of that, but really just having everybody out there has been the biggest change. And as you saw yesterday, we still have guys that are not in the team period. So I think the development of depth on offense is the biggest development that I've seen, because the quarterbacks are getting, besides Dak, the three other quarterbacks are getting all the teamwork. So that's great experience that they normally don't get. The tackles are getting a lot of work, because Elsie and they're not in the team meetings, team periods. So I think our depth and is better on offense clearly than it was last year. But just the health of that unit is going to be, to me, the biggest upgrade.
How valuable is that rookie school for you? I'm assuming that's the last time you're going to see your guys before you get to camp.
When pretty much most of the things I do are a reflection of my experience of coaching quarterbacks. When I look at rookie school, I think it's kind of a wrap up of the old quarterback school that I was part of in the early 90s, where you had that extra time. And the point I'm making is that there's always, for a young player, there's always moments in meetings and even on the field where they really don't want to ask the question that because maybe the timing or they're totally not sure. And I know I had an experience, and I can remember like it was yesterday. Matt Hasselbach was a young quarterback in Green Bay, and I was there his second year, and we were going through the same type of setting, and he goes, can you tell me like what does two-jet protection mean? And that's like the most, that's the common drop-back protection in the West. He goes, I never. I'm in a room with Brett Favre and Doug Peterson. I never wanted to ask what does the two mean? What does the number 3 mean? What's the word jet mean? So the point I'm making is, it gives you that opportunity, whether it's schematics, whether it's mental conditioning, the emotional IQ enhancement that was an emphasis in some of our early meetings. It gives us a chance to go back with the rookies and say, okay, let's just talk us through. And as I'm sitting here, I know there'll be some really good questions and dialogue next week with those rookies, because it'll give them a chance to, just kind of go back and ask questions that they may have wanted to ask, earlier, in this offseason program.
We haven't seen Amari on the field this spring. What dictated his status and outlook? If you could provide some details there. And also, what's it like to have here at minicamp almost half of your wide receivers unavailable as you try to practice?
I mean, I've never, you learn this early in this business. I mean, injuries are part of the game, and injuries give other players opportunities. And so it's all about developing that whole 90-man roster. So obviously we had five or six receivers that have had some issues here during this phase, and you just continue to work through it. As we talked about earlier, it gives Tony Pollard more opportunity to get those kind of reps. And as far as Amari has the ankle that he's still working through. He won't participate the rest of the mini camp, and I'm just hopeful he'll be ready for training camp.
Randy, of the guys who haven't done the team stuff or really much during this OTAs and mini camp, when you get to Oxnard, do you anticipate those guys being ready to go like full like Elsie, Tyron, and Amari, and Jarwin, and Tristan Hill, and all that kind of Lawrence?
I mean, I hope so, but I mean, we'll get into that when we get out there the first day. I mean, but what goes on between now and then? I mean, I'm hopeful that we have everybody out there, because I mean, that's such an important time of year, and I'm looking forward to the setting and the weather out there. But it's still training camp. We need as much. Your padded work's limited. More than ever. So this will be the less padded practices that I'll be a part of. So that work is valuable. So I'm hopeful that we have all those guys.
Do you expect John Fossil back this week, and if not, do you expect him to be a part of the rookie school next week?
I couldn't answer that. I mean, really, my conversations with John are really for him to focus on his family right now. So.
On your training camp schedule, when you go out there, will you return to camp after Canton? Will you return to California after Canton for another week?
I'll let Rich give that schedule. Yeah, we haven't announced it yet. So I mean, until they stamp it, I've given you about as much as I can.
Randy told us yesterday that he was pretty vocal with the coaching staff last year about wanting more playing time. What have you seen from him in the offseason that leads you to believe he will have and should have an expanded role?
Well, I really like the flight that Randy's on. I mean, if you recall, I think it was the first 6 weeks. We had him working on the opposite field with Britt and bringing him back, and we had him on a pitch count there for a while. But based on pure performance, I mean, I don't know how you can even disagree with the fact that yes, I mean he better want to play more because I plan on playing him more, and I think the most important thing for him is he's been here every day. I mean he looks great, but I couldn't, I didn't know Randy this time last year. I mean, like I said, he missed the first I'm going to say it was the first 6 weeks of the season until we were able to get him into the practice structure. So, but he's doing great, looks great, and we're expecting big things from him.
Talked about Randy, we talked about a lot of these injured guys. What's been the importance level of what Britt Brown does on the side with these guys on an individual level? Talked about Randy, what has been your takeaway of just that work that happens before guys are ready and clear to step back onto the practice field?
Well, I'll say this about Britt. I mean, make no question about it. He's great at what he does, and it's just if you have a chance to watch him every day, he has an old school discipline to him, but the connection that he has with the players in our locker room is unique. So we all have great trust in Britt and the whole training staff and the way they get these players what they need to get back strong. So I've been very impressed with Britt since I arrived here. So I have great confidence, and we definitely got our guys working with the right guy.
Do you think Dak having something of an influence on others in the rehab room? We've heard a couple guys talk about seeing Dak work, seeing Dak's progress, motivated them to keep going. Even though he wasn't on the field, for much of last year, did you see his leadership in that respect kind of carry through into this coming season?
I'll just say this: Dak Prescott's leadership exudes through the whole football operation. I'm sure it goes far beyond that, but the everyday interaction with him is so consistent, so steady, and he's just real. I mean, he's as real as a person that I've been fortunate enough to work with, and I've worked with a lot of great ones. But yeah, he's the same in the training room. He's the same in obviously the locker room, the weight room, the equipment room, and everybody. He has such a strong relationship with him, and it just speaks volumes about the way he goes about his his personal and his professional life. So, and I believe this. I mean, it's he reflects. He reflects exactly, I know what I'm looking for, and he definitely reflects what the Dallas Cowboys are looking for in their players, in the people that represent this organization. And this is, in my view, this is his team. I mean, he's the face of the locker room, and he's the guy that I'm going to lean on the most.
Mike, you've been here 18, 19 months now. Have you been able to experience Texas yet? Obviously, everything was on lockdown, and your family stayed in Wisconsin and things like that. I mean, are they coming down, or I know you had the place across the street there. Like, where do things stand for you off the field and getting to know this area taking the job and not having that opportunity?
Well, it's a big city that I haven't experienced any of it yet. I'll say that, but I'm looking forward to branching out outside of the Star area or the Star district here. But yeah, my family we actually move in the end of the month, so we're excited about that. So and be able to get everybody down here at that point too. So yeah, we're looking forward to June 30th is a big day for us as a family. So. But no, I mean, it's just, just with the times and everything that we've been through, I pretty much have kept it local to Frisco. So.
How do you like Frisco?
Love Frisco. I love Frisco. So, now this is, I mean, North Texas is a great area. I know we've talked. I spent a lot of years in Austin. So, and I've always had some friends up here in Dallas. So I've always loved the area. I just can't believe how fast it's growing up here, And the housing market is awesome, especially this is a great time to buy a house. So,
Great time to sell a house.
yeah, I'll tell you.
Thanks, Mike.
All right, have a good day. Thank you.